Do you dare to visit the real-life sets of the world's most terrifying horror movies? These places are more than just locations. They are remnants of the nightmares that have haunted audiences for decades. From haunted hotels to abandoned forests, these iconic spots have terrifying pasts that blur the line between fiction and reality. If you're brave enough, join us as we journey through the most spine-chilling movie sets in America that you can actually visit. We start in the high, eerie peaks of Colorado at the Stanley Hotel, a place so unsettling it inspired one of the greatest horror stories ever written, The Shining. Stephen King's stay here in room 217 sparked a night of ghostly visions that led to his classic tale of madness and terror. While Stanley Kubrick's film adaptation wasn't shot at this location, its real-life hauntings make it a must-visit for horror fans. Guests have reported unexplained piano music, flickering lights, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched as they walk the long, dim hallways. Room 217 is especially infamous, where a housekeeper who died in a mysterious explosion still seems to make her presence known. Cold spots, objects moving by themselves, and whispers in the night have terrified those bold enough to stay. Will you check in and experience the eerie silence that inspired King's vision of the Overlook? Now, let's head down to Bastrop, Texas, where one of the most brutal horror stories unfolded. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The infamous gas station from the 1974 slasher is still there, and while it's now a barbecue joint called the gas station, it's far from ordinary. Inside, horror memorabilia fills the walls, with the chainsaws from the movie still gleaming in the shadows. The eerie rural isolation that surrounded Leatherface's rampage is still very much alive here. You can eat, browse terrifying props, and even rent a cabin for the night. But remember, out here, there's no one to hear you scream. And as you lay down to sleep, it's hard not to imagine Leatherface lurking just beyond the trees. From Texas, we journey to the snow-covered wilderness of Oregon, where Timberline Lodge stands in all its isolated, haunting glory. This towering lodge, perched high on Mount Hood, served as the exterior of the Overlook Hotel in Kubrick's film adaptation of The Shining. The imposing structure surrounded by snow feels unnervingly secluded. In winter, as the winds howl and the snow piles up, it's easy to imagine yourself trapped just like Jack Torrance, with only the whisper of madness to keep you company. Inside, the wide hallways and towering fireplace provide an atmosphere that's equally grand and chilling. Stay the night, and as the snow presses against your windows, remember, all work and no play makes anyone a dull boy. Next, we head to the sunny streets of Santa Rosa, California, where an unexpected horror stalks the town. Ghostface. Scream, one of the most iconic slasher films of all time, was filmed here, turning quiet neighborhoods into crime scenes. Fans can visit the Sonoma Community Center, which stood in for Woodsboro High School, and walk the same halls where Sidney Prescott fought to survive. The sleepy town of Santa Rosa hides a dark past in plain sight. As you explore the town, it's easy to imagine Ghostface watching from the shadows, waiting to make his move. The movie may be over, but in a place like this, the threat never truly goes away. We now take you to South Pasadena, California, where terror has a name. Michael Myers. The Myers house, where the killer first struck in Halloween, still stands, looking almost exactly as it did in 1978. Its simple white exterior remains chillingly unchanged. Its windows like cold, unblinking eyes watching over the quiet street. Though the house is now an office, the aura of horror remains. Fans gather to take photos from the sidewalk, but standing this close to where Michael Myers once prowled feels like stepping back into a nightmare. You can almost hear the eerie piano notes from the movie's iconic theme as you pass by. Because in Haddonfield, Illinois, or here in South Pasadena, evil never dies. If haunted houses and killers aren't enough, maybe a descent into the infernal awaits you on the Exorcist stairs in Washington, D.C. These steep, narrow steps were the site of Father Karras's tragic fall in The Exorcist. As you approach the top, the weight of the movie's dark energy becomes almost tangible. It's easy to feel a sense of dread here, as if something unseen is watching from the shadows. People who've braved the descent at night speak of strange noises and the feeling of being pushed by something unseen. This isn't just a set of stairs, it's a portal to something far more sinister. So, would you dare walk down these infamous steps alone? Next, we enter the cursed woods of Seneca Creek State Park, Maryland, the real-life setting for the Blair Witch Project. These woods seem ordinary during the day, but as the sun sets, the oppressive silence becomes deafening. The dense trees stretch endlessly in every direction, creating a labyrinth where it's all too easy to lose your way. Wandering here feels like stepping into the film itself, the sense of being watched, the eerie quiet broken only by a distant rustle in the leaves. Is it just the wind? Or something more? Those who venture deep enough may begin to feel the same dread that consumed the filmmakers in the Blair Witch Project. But remember, once you're lost, there's no coming back. We leave the forest for the coastal town of Bodega Bay, California, where Alfred Hitchcock turned the innocent into the deadly in The Birds. Here, the crashing waves and lonely beaches are a far cry from the chaos of the film, but there's an unsettling undercurrent that remains. The empty streets and quiet skies offer no hint of the terror that once gripped this town. As you walk along the windy cliffs, the isolation sinks in, and you can't help but wonder, what if the birds returned? The fear in The Birds is subtle, but it's there, lurking just out of sight, ready to strike without warning. For a truly chilling experience, we visit Buffalo Bill's house in Perryopolis, Pennsylvania. Yes, the home from the Silence of the Lambs is real, and you can actually stay the night. Inside, the dark, shadowy rooms remain as unsettling as ever. The basement, where Bill kept his victims, is fully intact, as is the infamous well. Exploring this house is like stepping into the mind of a killer. Every creak, every draft feels like a warning. As you wander these halls, you can't help but wonder, are you really alone? And finally, we arrive at the Conjuring House in Harrisville, Rhode Island, the real-life home that inspired the terrifying film. Paranormal investigators have long claimed that this house is one of the most haunted locations in America. Visitors report hearing disembodied voices, witnessing objects move on their own, and feeling unseen hands grasp at them in the dark. The spirits here are said to be as active as ever, and you can join ghost hunts or spend the night if you dare. But beware. Once the sun sets, the real terror begins. You might leave this place, but you'll never escape its ghosts. These are more than just filming locations. They are real-life horror stories. If you're a fan of fear, these places offer something beyond what's on the screen. A chance to experience the terror firsthand. As you explore these haunted locations, the horror you face may be more real than you ever imagined. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And remember, some doors to the unknown are best left closed, for what lies beyond isn't meant to be disturbed.